Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. Zach, and this is Preschool Storytime. Welcome, and let's get started. So, just like every week, I am going to start us off with the preschool preview, which is some recommendations of books on the theme of the week. And this week's theme is Build It Better and Build It Bigger. All right, so to start off, I've got a wonderful board book here. Also, there is a dog barking right next door, and I'm not sure if that's going to end up in the video, but I know that some of the people watching this have dogs themselves, so hopefully it doesn't bother people too much. All right, so there is Let's Build. That is the first one we've got going on here, and that is by Julie M. Fenner. And this one is a great board book all about construction sites and the cool types of stuff that build that. You've got the bulldozers, you've got the demolishers, you got the cement mixers, all of that fun stuff. So if you've got little ones that are really into construction things, this is a really great one. All right, then I've got two in a series by the same author. I've got Construction and Demolition by Sally Sutton. And these ones are about what you would think there, but they've got some great noises in the book, so they're really fun to read. So like this one and the construction one, they're talking about building the frame of a building, and so they're hammering, and then there's bing, bang, bong, all of these great noises. So it's a really fun one to read along to. So that's Construction and Demolition. Demolition's got the same kind of sound things going on. So like this one is great. You've got the jaws that are tearing something out, and you can see those great action words on there. So really fun ones there. And remember, all of these books that I show you are always available from Hudson Public Library. All right, so next up, we've got Building Our House by Jonathan Bean. All right, so if you've actually helped to build a house, this one is going to feel really fun. But even if you haven't, this one is really cool. So it is from the beginning to the end, how you build a house, and it's just a lot of fun seeing that get put together, starting all the way from the very first, the drawings to the finished product. And then it is just a lovely book, really fun illustrations, family building a house together, just great. All right. Then we've got a book that was recently described to me by an adult as a book that they wish that they had had when they were younger. This one is just a fantastic fun book. So this one is Rosie Revere, Engineer, and that is by Andrea Beatty. So this one is all about a little girl, you can see right there, who wants to be an engineer. And she designs and builds things, and it's her reacting to other people's reactions of her stuff that she builds. And keep designing things. If you've got somebody who loves to be creative, and I think there's a little bit of creativity in all of us, then this is just a fantastic book. I can't recommend this one high enough. It is just fantastic. So Rosie Revere, Engineer. All right. Then the next one we've got is Dreaming Up, a Celebration of Building by Christy Hale. And this one is really interesting. So it shows some drawings of the types of structures and building things that kids like to make. So like a box that they cut a window out, or forts, or stacking wood blocks. And then right next to that, it shows a picture of a real famous building. And so I think if I show you, that'll make it a little more clear. So you see right here, you've got a wonderful blanket fort right there. I love making blanket forts. It's so much fun. And then on this side, you've got a building that kind of looks like that blanket fort. So it's showing how when you use your imagination, you can design and build things. I think that building forts, building things is always a great thing to do. I love this one too. It shows building a card house, and then it has this lovely building on it here. But you can also see, this is a good example, it has the words go in the way that the structure is. And that's the way that it goes through all of these pictures. So it's a really cool way to show these types of building things. So if you've got a little one that's into building, if you've got a little one that's into construction, I think fantastic one to look at. I also just think when the words are laid out interestingly on the page, it makes it a lot more interesting to read together. Because even if you've got one that's too young to read by themselves, they'll be able to notice that the words are differently on the page. I think it's a really cool thing to get. All right, and last but not least, we have got Good Night Construction Site. And that is by Sherry Dusky Rinker and Tom Lightenheld. And so if you like those good, oh man, that makes me sleepy just saying good night. But this is saying good night to a construction site. Just absolutely really cute pictures like you can see on the cover here. So if you've got ones that are into those big kind of Tonka trucks, any construction things, and I think that's pretty easy to find little ones who are into that kind of stuff. This one is so fun. The illustrations are great. They manage to have that line between they're really cute, but they're also really tough construction things at the same time. So I think really great one here too. So, all right, those are my suggestions for the week. Thank you for listening through those. All right, so now let's get started with the main part of the show. And we always start that with the welcome song. So let's get started on this. Hello, hello to you and you and you. Hello, hello to you and you and you. A big hello, a small hello, a hi hello, 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 hello to you and you and you. All right, hello everyone. All right, so if you've watched this before, you know what's coming up next. We need to get some movement in, so I've got my magic die right here. And when I roll this, we'll get a number, and it's going to tell us what to do. What do we got? All right, that's a 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means that we run in place. All right, so you're going to get up. And remember, if you can't manage to run in place, that is absolutely fine. Just do what you can. I'm sure you can think of something else. We are all clever, smart people. All right, so you're going to run in place. So it's just like running from one way to the other. But this one's really nice because you don't need a lot of places to go. If you can't do that, you can also just jump up and down. But I think that you can move your legs up and down, move your arms up and down. And it just gets you a little bit of nice movement. I'm going to spin in a circle while I do it too. Why not? We got it. All right. All right. And then if you've watched this, you always know every time I do one of the movements, I always get a drink of water. By the way, just in case anyone is ever wondering, my water bottle is a repurposed apple juice jug. All right, so I'm gonna do something a little bit different today. So normally I do a puppet show, but I found some cool stories that wouldn't work quite as well for puppets. So I'm gonna do them back to back. And I'm telling you 2 stories because I want you to think about both of them. All right, so all right, so the first one we've got is called Hans in Luck. So you might have actually heard one of these tales. This one, if you've heard one of them, it's probably this one, but we'll see. All right, so as a lot of these old stories start, it starts with once upon a time. there was a man named Hans, and he was working, and he decided that, he really missed his mother, and he wanted to go home to see him. So he said to his boss, "Boss, I'm feeling like I want to go home and see my mother." And his boss, being a nice guy, said, "Okay, yep, I will let you go. And to show you that you have been a good worker all this time you've worked for me, I will give you your wages and a bonus." And so he gave him a huge lump of gold. So gold is something really expensive, and that lump of gold was as big as Hans's head. So Hans takes down off the road. So this story was a long time ago when he would have just walked all the way home. Some people walk to work now, but he lived a long ways away from there. So he lived and worked somewhere else, and he was walking all the way to meet his mother. But anyway, so he's walking down the road with the heavy gold in a sack on his back. So if you're carrying a big bag of gold, I think he's starting to feel tired. I think I would feel tired too. And he's starting to think, oh, this bag of gold is starting to feel really heavy. So he gets tired, and he notices that there's somebody galloping down the street on a horse. And he says, "Hello, person on a horse." And after talking to the person on the horse for a little bit, he decides that he's going to trade his lump of gold for the horse. And so he says to himself, "What luck I have. Now I can ride this horse. I will get home so much faster. And I don't have to carry this heavy gold with me." All right, so he gets on the horse, but if anybody's ridden a horse here, you know it takes a little bit of training and learning to be able to ride a horse. So the horse doesn't recognize the rider, and it starts to buck him off, and he has a hard time of it. And after a little bit of doing this, he notices a cow on the road. Somebody is walking their cow down the street for market. And so Hans says, you know, a cow might be better. So he goes up to the person with the cow and says, "I will trade you my horse for this cow." And the person says, "Okay." So Hans gets a cow, and he says to himself, "What luck I have. This cow will be better. I will get milk from this cow, and it will be much easier to deal with." All right, so Hans keeps walking down the street, and then he notices someone with a pig, and he says, "I will trade you my cow for this pig." And he thinks to himself, "What luck. Again, instead of just the milk from this cow, I will get wonderful things like bacon and other meats from this pig." All right, then Hans keeps walking down the street. What do you think is going to happen next? Do you think he's going to be happy with his pig? All right, so then he notices someone with a goose. And so he looks at the person with the goose, and he says, "I will trade you my pig for this goose." And so he trades for the goose, and now he's got a goose, and he thinks to himself, "What luck I am in. I will be able to have feathers from this goose, and I will be able to have some goose fat and some wonderful goose meat as well. This will make me warm and give me a good meal all together, and I don't have to lug around that heavy pig." All right, and so then Hans decides he's going to keep walking down the road, and he's almost to his mother's house when he meets somebody who is a scissor grinder. All right, so think about your scissors. They cut things because they're sharp, and this is the person whose job is to make sure people's scissors are sharp. They sharpen them. All right, so Hans decides, I'm going to strike up a conversation with the scissor grinder. And so he talks to the scissor grinder, and then he realizes, oh, what an interesting job this person has. I think I would like to do that too. And the scissor grinder, seeing Hans for what he is, decides to say, I will let you have this profession as well. So I will sell you a grindstone if you give me your goose. And Hans thinks, that sounds like a good deal. And so the scissor grinder picks up a paving stone from the ground, hands it to Hans, and Hans gives him the goose. And Hans thinks, what luck I have. Now I have this stone, and I will be able to have a whole profession from this, my own job. All right, so Hans now has this heavy grindstone and is walking down the street when it gets heavy and he decides, I need to take a drink. So he stops at a stream, reaches down to get a drink, and the stone falls in the river. Now, what do you think Hans' reaction is to this? What do you think? Well, Hans says to himself, what luck I have! I had this burden of carrying this heavy stone, and now I get to return to my mother's house with not a single burden on me. I don't have to carry a single thing. So then he goes home in joy and tells his mother of his adventures, and she welcomes him home. All right, so that's the first story. What do you think about Hans? Do you think he was lucky? Do you think he made good trades? All right, so now that was Hans in luck. Now our second story I've got for you today is called The Straw Millionaire. So the first story was from Germany, and this one is from Japan. All right, so I think this is the one you're probably a little less likely to have heard before, but you know, you might have heard this one. So, once upon a time, there was a man who was down on his luck. He was very poor. He didn't have a thing to his name. And when people say that, it means that they didn't own anything. So he is walking down the street. He looks up and says, oh, I wish that I could have at least something that would turn my luck around. And so after he says that, he trips and falls on the ground. He doesn't get hurt, but he grabs a piece of straw. All right, so that's where it comes in the title. And he holds on to that piece of straw, thinking that, maybe something will come from this. So then, after that, there's a fly that buzzes around his head. And he decides, I've got this piece of straw. So he manages to grab the fly and he ties it onto the piece of straw to let it fly around so that it can still fly, but it's not going to be bothering him as much. So he's got that and he's holding it. I know that seems like something that might be a little bit hard to do. Then he walks into town and he sees a baby that's crying. And so he walks up and he shows it his fly on the string his fly attached to the piece of straw. And the baby, seeing this thing that's so unusual, it calms down. It notices that this is something really cool. And so the parent of this baby decides, wow, that was really cool. So in gratitude, they give this man 3 oranges. All right, so now he's got some oranges and he keeps walking down the road and he meets a woman who is dehydrated. All right, so dehydrated means that you don't have enough water, but even more than that, she was what's called severely dehydrated. So that just means she's really, really thirsty. She hasn't had enough water for could be days, maybe like a day or two, I guess. And he decides, oh, well, I have these oranges and that will help her. So he gives her the oranges and she feels better. And so she, out of gratitude, gives him a length of silk. Now, silk is this really expensive, really nice fabric. All right, so he now has this length of silk, which is a very fancy fabric. And he's walking down the road when all of a sudden he meets a samurai who is riding a weak-looking horse. Now, a samurai is a warrior, and they are basically like the law keepers of their day. They are basically like if you were to meet a police officer of their time, but more like a police officer that worked directly for the richest person in town. So the samurai, and they're also a little like knights too. So the samurai has a weak horse and he says, give me that length of silk and I will give you my horse. It is a weak horse, but I think that you can take this just as well, and I want that from you. Well, being a samurai, this man from Japan can't quite say no to the samurai, so he gives him that length of silk and he takes the horse. But because this man is compassionate, he then nurses that horse back to health. And after doing that, it becomes a fine horse, an upstanding horse. And Hans is, or not Hans, that was the last story. This man is out riding the horse when all of a sudden a millionaire comes by and is impressed with this horse. He sees how nice of a horse it is and how well this man is taking care of it. And so he invites him to come into his house and share a meal with him. And so he can get a better look at the horse. All right, so this millionaire, this very rich millionaire, invites this man to his house. And when he gets to the house, who do you think he'll see there besides the millionaire? He sees none other but the dehydrated woman that he had helped before. And the millionaire just happens to be her father. And she says to her father, "This man saved my life." And now we see him again, and you can see what a good, hardworking, and compassionate guy he is. So the millionaire is so impressed by the man who has the horse going back all the way to that piece of straw, and so that he invites him to become a part of their family and join in them in their enterprises. All right, so that's the end of that one too. What did you think of that story? Did that man make good trades? Did he seem like he was lucky? And what do you think of him? All right, so can you see why I told you both of those stories? What do they have in common? All right, so both of those stories talk about somebody who starts at a certain point and trades things. So Hans starts with a lot of wealth. He starts with a lot, and each time he trades, he goes down. But every time he does it, he's still happy. And at the end, he's the happiest of all because he doesn't have anything that he has to do. Whereas the straw millionaire, he starts with absolutely nothing, gets something just tiny, a little piece of straw, and works his way up to being a millionaire. So who seems happier in their stories? Why do you say that? Who do you most identify with? And which story did you like better? Alrighty, so those are my two stories. So I think we need to get a little bit more movement in. Let's see what I got. We've got a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That means we're gonna stretch. All right, so let's get up again. All right, so you can stretch however you want. So stretching just means that you're going to take your arms, your legs, or whatever, and trying to get them out. So you can pull your arms across. You can try to reach behind your head. You can try to reach up as high as you can. You can try to reach down to see if you can touch your toes. Whatever you want, just try to get some stretching in. So just imagine you are stretching your arms out, stretching your legs out. It's just nice to get that little bit of movement in. And remember, big people watching this, whenever I do movement for the little ones, you can always join in. All right, I'm stretching up way up to the sky. I'm gonna twist, twist. You get my arm over and my arm over there. And I think that's good for stretches. All right, so today we're gonna end with a song. And this is gonna be Old MacDonald. And I have a bunch of animals on a popsicle stick, and I'm gonna reach in randomly and grab them as we go through this song. So it's going to be a mystery to me what we're going to get. So this is going to be Old MacDonald Had a Farm. All right, so every time I pull out an animal, woo, hit my computer there, we are going to say the sound that that animal has. So I think you'll catch on pretty quick. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on his farm he had a lamb, E-I-E-I-O, with a ba, ba here and a ba, ba there, here a ba, there a ba, everywhere a ba, ba. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. All right, what's next? Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on this farm he had a cow, E-I-E-I-O. Now what sound does a cow make? With a moo moo here and a moo moo there, here a moo, there a moo, everywhere a moo moo. Clearly I haven't done this song in a while. All right. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on this farm he had a horse, E-I-E-I-O. And what sound does a horse make? With a neigh neigh here and a neigh neigh there, here a neigh, there a neigh, everywhere a neigh neigh. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. All right, let's do one more here. I've got a few more, but I think that should be good. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on this farm he had a cat, E-I-E-I-O. Now what sound does a cat make? With a meow meow here and a meow meow there, here a meow, there a meow, everywhere a meow meow. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. All right, that's it. So you can continue doing that if you like with some other animals. What other kinds of animals do you think would live on a farm? So I just figured that would be a fun way to end it this time. So again, my name is Mr. Zach. This has been Preschool Story Time. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you join me again next week. But until then, I give your week back to you. Bye.